Lady's time has expired. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'd like to yield 10 minutes to the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Akin, and note that he has a son who has served as a U.S. Marine in Iraq.
The gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 10 minutes.
Revise and extend.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We come here today, we spent most of the day on this, to discuss a resolution. It has two parts. The first says that we support our troops, and the second says that we are opposed to the missions, or the mission that the troops are sent on. Now, the problem with a resolution is that it is self-contradictory right up front. If we were going to say we're supporting our troops, we would give them body armor, we would give them up-armored Humvees, we would give them tanks. But would we withhold the most important item in our arsenal, and that is other American fighting men and women? So to say that we're going to support our troops, but we're not going to send them any reinforcements, is on the face of it contradictory. Could you picture Davy Crockett at the Alamo, looking at his BlackBerry, getting a message from Congress? Davy Crockett, we support you. The only thing is we're not going to send any troops. I'm sure that would really be impressive to Davy Crockett. The second problem with this resolution is that it really misses the job of what congressmen should be doing. Look, I'm an engineer by training. If we're about to make a mistake or we're doing something wrong, I'm open-minded to my Democrat colleagues saying to me, Todd, we're going down the wrong path. That's a bad idea. You should do it this way instead. I was always trained that if you're ready to criticize somebody, you at least offer an alternative. But the problem is with this nifty little resolution, it says we support troops, but we're not going to give them any reinforcements, and then it's blank. There is no recommendation. There is no leadership. They're just saying, we're going to stand on the sidelines and say, it won't work. But don't we owe our soldiers something positive, something specific, a positive recommendation? The Democrats have been elected to majority. That means leadership. That means if you've got a better idea, put it on the table. But if you don't, shut up and don't undermine the morale of our troops and encourage our enemies. That isn't very helpful. Now I've heard people talking about the fact that this is a civil war. This isn't a civil war. If we leave, it'll be what's real civil war. Right now, there's a lot of ethnic clashing and violence. And what is that caused by? Guess what? Terrorists. They said they're doing it intentionally. They blow up a holy place of the Shias, and the Shias react, and they go shoot up a bunch of Sunnis. And so, yeah, but who started all this? Well, of course, it's the terrorists. It's their intention. And do we think if they can destabilize Iraq by fomenting strife between racial groups, that they won't take the same strategy to the other barely stable nations in the Middle East, nations where you have a Sunni leadership and a Shia majority? Are they not going to do the same? Or are you going to say, oh, but it's a civil war, so we can wash our hands of it. It's nothing to worry about. Now, we had the ambassador to Egypt and to Jordan in, and they pleaded with us today, do not rapidly withdraw your troops. And so we started to ask, well, what would happen if we were to do this? Well, nobody knows. But there's one thing we can kind of assume. All the way through history, the history of mankind, whenever there is anarchy, it lasts but a short time. And it is immediately filled with some kind of very strong dictator. Now, do we think that the dictator is going to be a moderate, reasonable sort of guy? Or if we pull out of Iraq immediately, is it not likely that we're going to get an Islamo-terrorist dictator? I think that makes at least some sense. So then, now what do we have? Now we have Iraq with the oil money supporting it, with this crazy dictator spreading this same kind of radical Islam all over the Middle East. That's a minimum for the scenario of what we're potentially looking at if we rapidly withdraw. Now, it seems to me that all of us as Americans need a little bit of a direction check. And I think sometimes when we need direction, it's helpful to look at the people who came and founded this great nation before us. And so I go back to a question that I ask audiences, not only school kids, but adults. I ask them, what is it that makes America so unique and so precious? What is, if you take America like an onion and take all the outer layers off, when you get down to the heart, what makes us who we are as a people? And invariably, I hear the word freedom. But that's not quite sufficient, because it isn't quite complete. You see, the people at Tiananmen Square, those little kids in college, wanted freedom, but they greased the treads of Chinese tanks. Just because you want freedom doesn't mean you can have it. There was more to what our founders understood. And they set it forth before we embarked on our first war as a nation, eloquently in our Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Rather flowery language. Any idiot should know this, that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these is life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And our job in government is to protect those God-given rights. It's not just an idea, it was a conviction. People say ideas have consequences. Many idiots have ideas, but an idea that you die for has consequences. And this idea was powerful. It is the engine that has driven America. It has guided us in times of war, because we will say, yes, we believe there are certain fundamental God-given rights that all people are owed. And that is what I taught my son when he was a little kid. Here he is with the Marine Club. Just a little guy, saluting Old Glory, with a whole bunch of little kids in some motley uniforms they bought from the used equipment store for military services. Here he is posing, just as proud as can be, founder of the Marine Club, taught that there are some things in this world that are worth dying for. And those convictions are the fact that God gives us life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And I believe America still believes that. There's the little Marine. He's grown up now. That's the cache of terrorist arms that was found in Fallujah. That's the gang that he had the proud opportunity to lead as a second lieutenant in Fallujah. Because he believes that there's nothing particularly strange for us to be fighting terrorists. Why would it be so odd for us to fight terrorists? What do terrorists believe? They believe you blow up innocent people. What do we believe? The life is a gift from God. What do terrorists do terrorism for? To take your liberty away, to compel you to do something you don't want to do, to make women into slaves, to take away people's freedom, to take away your liberty. That's what terrorism is for, and that's fundamentally against the idea that God made people to be free. That's why he fights. That's why America has always fought. There's nothing weird or unusual about this. Is it worth fighting terrorists? Is it worth risking your life for freedom? I taught my son yes. When I went over to visit him, together we reaffirmed what we were doing in Iraq. What? Is it so unusual that we have a debate about whether we should be going to war or not? That very first war was over the Declaration of Independence, and there was a gentleman from Virginia who said, what has there been in the conduct? But perhaps maybe we could adjust his words. What has there been in the conduct of the terrorists that gives us any room for hope? The terrorists say the only good Jew is a dead Jew. The only good Christian is a dead Christian. That doesn't leave you a lot of room for negotiation. If we want to stay free, we must fight. Millions of Americans that are armed in the holy cause of liberty are invincible by any force which the terrorists may send against us. A just God presides over the destinies of nations. Is life so dear? or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of the terrorists running the world. Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me and as for my son, we will choose liberty. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.